All right, come on, get hold of him. Lock him up.
All right, you fools. You brought it on yourselves. Everything would have come right if you'd only left me alone. You've driven me near madness with your peering through the keyholes and gaping through the curtains. And now you'll suffer for it. You're crazy to know who I am, aren't you? All right, I'll show you.
There's a souvenir for you. And one for you. I'll show you who I am and what I am.
Look, he's all eaten away.
Huh? How do you like that, eh? It was horrible.
All right, so this is part 2 and the finale of my Invisible Man build from Moebius models for the Sci-Fi Fantasy or Model Builders International Halloween build. And highly recommend checking out the site. It's really well done and a lot of excellent people on it. Kenny Conklin, who runs it, does a fantastic job. Definitely have high regard for him and all the modelers that are on there and the builds that they show. So it's not just science fiction. The sci-fi fantasy part of it generally focuses on that, but the Model Builders International focuses on other genres like military and cars and things like that. So so definitely check that out. And then let's go ahead and see the progress that I've made on this kit, and we'll get this wrapped up. Thank you. All right, so more work on the Diorama Base for my Invisible Man. So I got a coating of some German gray Tamiya onto the table and the bookcase, and I used a spray can of their lacquer. I had a can of that, and it was easier to do the large areas of these two pieces rather than trying to use an airbrush, but it turned out very nice. I like the color. I was looking for something in a darker gray because these two sort of match with the dark wood in the on the pictures on the kit. The floor right now is just primed. It's not painted yet, obviously. It's just white. That's going to be a lighter gray to simulate like a lighter wood, and then it has some really cool grain in it. As you can see, I'm going to do a wash that will bring that out and kind of make it look like it's a wood grain as well. So I'm kind of playing with an idea for a backdrop for this because if you have any color in it, like you're seeing the colors of the caps and different things behind it, it tends to want to add in your mind color into it. That's why, as I said in the previous video, it kind of makes his pants look like they're tan, and they're really not. They're just gray, and it may do more of that when I have more things built up. So I got an idea from the stills that I made at the end of my last video, where I had the white background and everything else was blocked off, and it just made him look black and white. So let me bring that up and I'll show you what my idea is. All right, there we go. So I have a little backdrop that's kind of a different tones of gray film strip. It's sort of like the rotating countdown at the beginning of the film strip that you see. It doesn't have any numbers on it, but it has like the rotating kind of a wheel and the film strip spokes on the side of it. So it definitely adds more to that whole gray tones in the kit. Let me put up the white paper again and I'll show you how that kind of blocks it off and how cool it looks. All right, there we go. So that looks pretty cool. Pay no attention to the blue down there. That is some micro mask over those pieces of, I assume those are broken glass. So I don't want those to be painted when I paint the rest of the floor. So once it's painted, I'm going to peel that off and have the white behind it, and I'm just going to put some clear 5-minute epoxy dab it on so it looks like it is actual pieces of glass. So that'll be kind of cool. but you can see how the whole overall look is enhanced by the gray background. It's pretty cool. So all that I did, see if I can get out of here without knocking everything down. I went online and I found this image, and I didn't do anything to it to make it a different color. I lightened it up a bit and brightened it up because it was a little dark, but it is a gray film strip image, and I made it the right dimensions, and I printed it out in some glossy stock, and then I just got this plastic holder at Walmart for $1.87. It's really cheap, and popped it in. I'm not exactly sure whether or not I'm going to leave it at that curve, or I'll cut off the bottom and glue it flush behind the bookcase, something like that, but it's pretty cool. I really like that a lot. I think it'll add a lot to the overall view of the kit. And okay, so you can see, not bad, a little stark, but I think when this goes behind it, it adds the it's almost like a blending coat that you would put onto a model. Kind of knocking things around here. Get over there. There we go. But it kind of brings it all together. So I think that's really cool. I'm playing with the idea of maybe getting the Invisible Man image, maybe cutting it out from some image and superimposing it on top of this and making it black and white. I think that would be pretty cool as well. But I really like that. I like that whole overall display and image. I think that's going to be pretty cool. All right, so another thing I'm working on is a way to come up with the covers for the books, the papers on the desk, the bottles. I'm going to put some labels on them so they look more realistic, and also doing them in the black and white scheme. So I had seen a video from a fellow YouTuber named Augie Gonzalez, and his channel is Interstellar Modeler. Fantastic builder. He does a lot of great builds, and he's really talented. He had built the Invisible Man, I think it was last year, and he, as far as I understand, he went online and he got different images of old books and book covers and papers and things like that, and he created the images for decals, and he printed them out on decals, and he put them on his kit. It turned out fantastically. So I had contacted him, and he sent me the files, and they're just some images, JPEG images of the different things. So let me show you those here, and they're kind of cut up because I started cutting them out. But he has like the book spines in different images, some covers to the books. He has that one there, which I thought was pretty cool, from the Earth to the Moon, which is pretty neat. Now these are in black and white. Let me show you the other ones, and then I'll explain what I did here. There's some paper sheets to put onto the desk. Really cool looking. Some anatomy things. That's kind of awesome. And these ones are really cool. Some different bottle labels. He just went on and found some old. Turn it over. Some old-fashioned labels, and you can tell there's real detail on them. Arsenic, strychnine. It's really cool. So what I did was I put the files into a Word document, and then obviously it's pretty easy in there to just to manipulate the colors, and there's an option just to make it black and white, which is what I did. And I went looking for some decal paper last night. Had a heck of a time finding it. Really didn't find what I needed, Staples. I went to Staples. They didn't even know what I was talking about. Like, how in the world are you a office store and sell tons of copy paper and all different kinds, and you don't know what decal paper is? They didn't even know what a decal was. Left there rather quickly. Checked Walmart, checked some other places. Other than online, the only place I found any was at Hobby Lobby, and it was from Testers, and it was a small sheet set, which was only like a half sheet, like 8 by 8 inches by like 6 or something, which wasn't really going to work. And it didn't really say whether it would work with a laser or inkjet printer, so I was kind of leery about it. But I did find at Walmart for about $8, $7.97, some sticker paper, some thin white self-adhesive paper. And I thought, well, I'll give that a try, since obviously I want to have papers for the desk and the book covers, and it's going to work out really well. It's going to work out really well. So I just printed it right out of a printer. It's a laser printer, and I didn't peel the backing off of these ones yet, and I will. But here's like the ones for the table. Oh, sorry. To go in the spaces where these little boxes are. So what I can do is just peel off the back, stick them down onto the table. And I'm thinking of even like overlapping them a little bit and covering all those little engraved marks and putting a couple up there for those. So that'll be pretty cool. The ones for the bottles, obviously, I can just peel off and wrap around the clear bottle. And it's actually paper, so it really is like a label. And I'm going to be putting a wash on those to weather them, so to make them look a little bit older and worn. So that'll kind of blend in the paper too, and you know, look perfect. So that's going to be pretty cool. And then the one that I'm really working on right now are the books that go into the bookshelf, because there's several of those. And surprised this kit didn't come with any decals for it, which is very surprising. But what I've done is I've cut out the little book ones, and then the books go in and out, and they're different ranges. They're not all just one flat surface, so it's a little tricky. So what I've done is I've cut them out individually, and you can see I already finished that part. And I had to pick and choose different ones that are bigger than the actual book's, you know, width, and I just pressed it along the edges of it, used a toothpick, and it looks really cool. It looks like an actual, like a 3D book. It's made of paper, so that's cool too. So that's going to work out perfectly. So I'm going to keep working on that and get those rest of those done. I'll have to adapt some of the outer ones to go like on here, but there's only a few spots where there is an outer book. I think like 3 of them that are like this. The rest of them are just like this, the spines. So once this goes in the cabinet, that's going to look pretty cool sticking out of there. Get some light on that. Yeah, so that's going to be pretty sweet. And black and white, of course, so that's pretty awesome. So I really like that. And all I'm going to do for the pages, like these parts at the top, is just put some like slightly yellowed white down them, and then maybe a little darker color, and just kind of dry brush some streaks onto it. You're not even really going to see them because they're going to be inside the bookcase, you know, but just to give it a little bit of an image. But I'm not even going to paint these at all. I'm simply going to put the stickers on, and this side over here won't need to get anything on it because it's going to be flush up against the bookcase. So that's going to work out great. So thanks again, Augie, for this awesome decal set. Really a huge help on this. I think it's really going to add some cool detail to it, and also the bottles. So really appreciate it. So let me go ahead and keep working on those, and start working on some of the clear parts. So work continues on some of the additional parts to highlight the room diorama. Lots and lots of clear parts, lots of little teeny parts. This kit's really cool. It has a lot of added little elements to it. So each of them were a bit challenging as far as doing the black and white theme, but I think they're coming out pretty well. So here is the table so far. It's not glued on yet, but I have some of the extra glassware done. I didn't want to do the really clear glass because it doesn't look natural. Like here's the mortar and pestle, whatever it's called. I don't know why that would be clear anyway. I'm probably going to paint that, but it's just too shiny, too artificial looking. So I tried a couple of techniques, putting on a wash, not a wash, but putting on some Citadel non-oil, which is like a dark wash. Acrylic, I put some of that on there. I used some Tamiya smoke, which I did on that little bottle there. It almost looks greenish, which it does in the instructions, but it has the gray hue. And then I just used some of my Plastruck Bondine because it naturally kind of clouds the plastic. So I think that's probably the way I'm going to end up going. So I have this little teeny bottle here, for example. Let's focus on that. You can see it's kind of cloudy. It makes it look more aged and more used. Inside of it, I put a little bit of, I took some 5-minute epoxy, I mixed in a little bit of the Tamiya smoke, and it made it dark, and so I just stuck that in there and let that harden inside of it. I did the same thing with this giant glass thing as well. Sorry, get a better look at that. And that's dried inside. But it gives me a dark liquids rather than anything with color in it. So, and I did the same thing with that. It also solved the problem of having to glue these together because these all come in halves, so they had to be glued together anyway. And putting a little bit of this on the seam made it a little bit clouded along there anyhow. But these little bottles, I had to drill out the neck of the bottle because they were solid. I just used the pin vise and my Dremel to sand that out. Did the same thing on the other one. Alright, I initially got pretty much done the 2 rats and the frog that are invisible. Did not realize until after I put the rats together that there were pieces that go inside of them that look like they're internal organs, which would have been kind of cool, but I can't get them apart now. I'm not going to worry about it. They're in their little fish tank. I may put like a wash on that too, since it's so clear. That's probably what I'll do. And there's other bottles that I have to make for that shelving. And then the last thing I've been working on is I finished the labels for all the books. As I explained earlier, I used the set that was provided to me by Augie Gonzalez, and I just printed them out on label paper, self-sticking paper, and made them in black and white. And so I finished all those, and then for the spines, I just took some really light gray Tamiya paint, and I had some that I had made for a previous build for the Millennium Falcon, and I just took a bottle of white and just put in a little bit of gray so it's just slightly darker, marked a G on top. So I used some of that, and I just took a brush, a broad brush, and just stroked it over it, and it naturally made some streaks and didn't go on perfectly. And most of these you're not going to see. Once that dries, I need to get those little sides. I'm going to use a darker gray on those, or maybe some more of the sticker material. I might do that. I'll put that on there as well. So, okay. And I'm also going to take, I'm going to do a wash of some oils from Abteilung, and I'm going to do that on pretty much all these things, probably even like the the bookshelf and the desk, just get like a streaking wash on it so it looks older and it looks more used rather than being shiny and smooth. So okay, so coming along fantastically. Have almost all of the parts together. We'll be getting ready to put these together soon. Okay. Oh, one other part that I didn't show off very well and go over, actually both of these. This little stand here for the big giant globe thing, whatever that's called. And this is a Bunsen burner. So for the metallic look, I used metallic gray, which is appropriate. My black and white and gray. And then for this one, it's supposed to be a candle flame in there. Trying to get that focused. I used some of the Tamiya smoke. Oops. Sorry. There we go. That turned out really cool. All right. All right, so I did some oils on the bookcase in the table because I didn't want them to just be a smooth finish. And what I used was, I really love this a lot, Abteilung 502 oils, really high quality. I used one called Starship Filth, which is like a black wash. These are a little pricey, not terribly, about $8 a tube, but I've had this tube for a couple of years now, and I barely use any of it because it's very concentrated oils, but very high quality. I used these brushes here, and I just use these for the oils only. There's some cheap brushes, and I need some wide ones to get some good strokes on them, with some good stripes. So you can see it looks like a wood grain finish, even though this doesn't have a wood grain finish in it. I had to play with it a little bit, but basically what you do is you just put it on and then it starts to dry, and then you slowly run the wide brush along it to make some wide streaks like I did, and it looks like a wood finish because this is darker than the gray that I have on here. I did the same thing on the bookshelf. Try to move it without knocking anything over. Same thing, you can see it has like a wood grain pattern in the parts that you can see. Without that, this is how it looks on the back of it. It's just smooth, perfectly smooth. So it doesn't look natural. It doesn't look like a piece of furniture that's made out of wood. So I really like how that turned out, especially the little table. That looks great. I really like that a lot. Looks perfect. And if it doesn't work out the way you want it to be, you just put some more of the odorless thinners on, or terpenoid, and mineral spirits, I mean, and you just wash it back down. And it really does a great job of bringing that out. So I took it from just this plain German gray, smooth gray, to looking like that. So, okay. All right. I also used the wash, move this over here, on the pages part of the books. They turned out pretty nicely. It just takes a little bit off of the edge of the white. And you can't really see those too much, but they look pretty nice. And then the shelves as well. I did the same thing on the shelves with the oils, so they look a lot more realistic. I even used it on the fish tank for the little invisible rats. I put it all around on the inside and the outside and let it dry a bit, and then I just took a paper towel and wiped it down. So it looks kind of dingy, but it's still clear. It's not that big, clear, shiny plastic like it came out like this. This is too unrealistic. I keep using that as an example. But yeah, so it makes it look a lot more realistic for the kit. I also got a coating of gray onto the floor, sky gray from Tamiya. And then what I'm going to do is use the same wash to get that grain in the floor to show up. Because this actually has the grain, which is really nice. And the little nails that go down through the floor, the grooves between the boards. So I'll let that dry completely, and then I'll go back over it with a wash of that. And then I can wipe off the top so it's still gray, but you have the wash down in the actual grain of the wood. So, all right, it's come along very well. I just have to finish up the other glassware for this shelf. I have the skull painted. I just want to put a wash on the skull as well to dingy it up a little bit. And then he'll go right over here next to the books. And then I have a few more things up on top of the shelf as well to finish up. And we're getting close to the end of this, so come along really well. Getting ready to get this finished up. So, all right. All right, so I did some detailing of the little plastic bottles and jugs and jars. I got going with it and got it was kind of flowing pretty well and feeling creative, so I didn't really take some time out to do some pictures of them as I was going through them. But basically, I used some the same techniques throughout. Either a combination of frosting the plastic using the Plastruck Bondine, just brush it on, and it fogs it up so it gives it more of an aged look. Or I used Tamiya Smoke, which is basically a clear gray, and painted the whole bottle so it gives it more of a realistic look. And then I used some gray metallic for some of the caps. As you can see here, these ones over here look like they're metal lids. I used some gunmetal on a few of them just to give it a little bit of a variation, but I still want to stick with the grays, and some black just on a few to kind of give it a more realistic look than the totally solid clear plastic part. And then I used the labels that I showed before that I got from Augie Gonzalez and printed them out. Some of them, like this one here, I kind of tore a few edges of it, made it look loose, that kind of thing. Some I just left clear, like this one I didn't fog up at all because it looked cool with it. And then on the insides I put some 5-minute epoxy. Just stuck it inside while they were still halves and put it together. And some of it I put some Tamiya Smoke into it so it would look dark. Sorry, it's kind of hard to get a focus on that close on it. I just kind of experimented with it. This one actually you can see a little better with the dark since it's an open container. And it's still hardened. It didn't stop it from hardening, which is nice. All right. Also up on here I used some Tamiya Smoke and also have the dark liquid inside of that bottle there, as you can see, and some inside the glass next to it. And a few I was a little creative with. This one here, I took some styrene strip and just chopped it in little pieces, painted it with the smoke and gunmetal, and stuck it inside. And I put some chips on the bottle, look like it's cracked, and looks like it has nails in it. So that's kind of cool. But anything to get away from the super glossy shine on every single one of them. make the cats look realistic, and then do some different shades so that they'll look random and look more realistic. So let me go ahead and put them on the bookcase, and I'll show you what that's going to look like. Alright, and here is the nearly completed bookshelf with all my really cool looking bottles and hideous little creatures inside bottles. A bottle of nails. Carbolic acid. Some of these are glued in place, but that's probably the placement that I'll end up having. It looks pretty cool like that. Little bottle on top. I still have to do something with that little clear thing. I guess that's supposed to be a glass, but that's really hideously thick. Let me get rid of that and put something else in its place. So. Alright, so pretty much done with this. I just have to get them in place. I still have to get some weathering on the skull because it's way too white. And if I put that in there, it's going to really stand out. So I'm going to darken that up with some oils and some weathering, and then that'll go into its little spot right there. That's looking pretty beautiful. Really, really pleased with how that turned out. Especially with those clear bottles and getting them transformed into the look that they have now. Alright. Okay, so a few extra touches here before I get it all put together. I'm making a little candle lamp. You can see that there in the back. I had these two last little bottles, and I was looking at the box and it had an image of a melted candle. Actually, let me see if I can find it here. There you go. Sorry, on the instructions. There it is right there. It's actually right where I put it, except that little beaker there next to the rat thing is much smaller than the one they gave me. It has a frog in it, but that's what I made there. I just took the bottle, put a little hole in the top, and a little thin piece of styrene stripping, like this one. This one I'm doing with the tinted bottle with the Tamiya smoke. This one's going to go on the table. And then I just took some white birthday candles, lit it, and just dripped some wax down around the bottle and even let it collect around the bottom. I had to do it a couple of times and even melt the bottom a bit, but I got a nice little melted look right there with that one. So I just to scrape some of the candle wax off the bottom and glue it onto the table. I didn't want to do the tinted because I didn't want it to clash with this tinted bottle that's going to be right here. And then I'm not going to use that really clear looking thick, I guess that's supposed to be a glass, it's ridiculous. I'm going to use this one, which is a little better, and this one's just going to go there. I'm going to put something in the bottom to mask that hole there, but that's how that's going to go. I just have to get my skull tinted and put onto it as well. Not tinted, but I'll put a wash on them and weathering. Alright, looking pretty cool. And then I just want to finish the final positioning, get them all glued down and on here, and then be ready to get the whole thing put together. Alright, so I finished weathering the floor using a wash to get some dark in between the grooves and some of the grain, and try to get some different shades throughout it. I ended up going over it again with a light airbrush spraying of some sky gray and then a little bit of white to kind of lighten up the tones. It had gotten a little bit dark. And then back over it again with just a little bit of wash in the grooves and the little nail marks, and use the paper towel to wipe it off so it didn't get onto the top. So I like that. I'm going to leave it as it is there. I can keep fiddling with it, but I'll always want to do something more. And what I did was I took the micro mask off the little bits of broken glass, and I put some clear Tamiya on, not clear Tamiya, some 5-minute epoxy clear on there, and let it dry, and then weathered it a little bit. It looked okay, but I wanted to get a more obvious look of a broken bottle. So I took one of the thick glass bottles that I didn't end up using, or not bottles, but like a glass, I guess it was, and I broke it in a pair of pliers and just broke little pieces off it, and I put it down onto it with some 5-minute epoxy. And then I mixed some of the Tamiya smoke in with the 5-minute epoxy, as I did for the jars. And it's still drying right now, but I just liberally put it around the different shards of glass to give it that look of a broken bottle. So I really like that. I think that really stands out and adds some character to the floor. All right, so pretty much ready to go ahead and start putting all the elements together. Everything's all glued on as far as the accessories. I just need to go ahead and get those glued into place, and I'll be ready to go ahead and finish this up and get the back onto it. Okay. All right, so I'm finishing up the backdrop on the back for this kit to wrap it up. And like I said, I didn't want that standing up freestanding. It's going to be attached. So I cut off the flat bottom, and then it was a little short as far as the height compared to the Invisible Man. So I wanted to create a little more height on it and maybe do a little framework. In addition, I wanted to have the film strip paper just outside without having the glossy framework. So I want it to look like this. So to hide the rough edges, I decided to take some balsa wood that I had and put a stripping, like a framework around it. And that's what I did. And I used some hot glue, and I glued it on, and on the back of it I have a piece of foam board as well. Okay, and you're really not going to see the back. And I'm going to paint this. Thinking about a dark gray on there, and then this whole piece will glue onto the base. Mostly in the center here where the bookcase is. There's going to be a nice bit of glue in there. Also on the bottom edge to have that on there nice and solid. And then this piece here I'm just going to put in with some double-sided tape, which I have, and just put that into the back of it. And then, like I said, a dark gray border. So let me go ahead and get that painted, and then we'll see about getting this on, and we can go ahead and get this attached and wrap up this kit. All right, so I got a I got some paint on the backdrop frame. On the back of it, I just painted, actually in both sides of it, I painted some flat gold gray, which I had in a spray can, just so the back would have an even color. And then on the sides and the top, I did a German gray, which I also had a little bit of in a can too. So with the same spray can that I used to do the desk or the table and the bookcase. So that's dried. It's just maybe a few spots that are just a little tacky. So I took some double-sided tape, and as you can see, I have it in certain spots. I don't have it right here because this is where the desk is going to be, and I'm actually going to cut out a part of the film strip paper. So this is going to go right in there. It looks pretty cool. And then the bottom edge is a little short, so I have a piece of styrene stripping that I started to paint. I painted the edges of it. What I want to do is get it glued down over top of this on the bottom first, and then I'll paint the rest of it on top. And that'll be the end of it. And then I'll get this glued onto the base once it dries overnight, and that'll look pretty sweet. All right, let me go ahead and get that done as well. All right, and there we go. So I have the backdrop glued onto the base. It's glued onto the back of the bookcase and to the floor. So it's all one solid piece now. Of course, the table and the bookcase are both glued on as well. All right, and just the flat gold gray on the back. Okay, I really like how that turned out a lot. I think that's really cool. I especially like the film strip on the back. I think it really adds to the image. All right, so I just have to put the Invisible Man on it, and I have him rigged up to go on magnetically. So let me show that to you. All right, so as I showed in the previous stills, I drilled out his feet, and I put some strong magnets in both of his shoes. And then I don't have magnets permanently installed in the floor. What I have are these flat magnets. Very strong. And all I do is stick 2 of them underneath the floor and then put him down on it where I want him to be positioned, and they'll just stick to his feet. The only downside is they seem to have a polarity where it only sticks to one of the magnets on his shoes, so it holds him down, but it's not as strong as I would like it to be. Kind of playing with the idea, and I might still end up doing at some point, just get some pieces of metal, stick them underneath, and then both of the magnets would hold to the metal and hold it in place. But in the meantime, this works just fine. So let me go ahead and put those underneath, and then we'll get him on there to do the final reveal. All right, there we go. So I have him positioned, and he is movable. Just move the magnets around, and he can be positioned however I want him to be. So there we go. I have this on a white background so you can appreciate the black and white and the gray tones. Really pleased with how this turned out. I really like the black and white scheme. Definitely want to pursue that again in the future on another build. But I think that turned out really, really well. I have my my table there with all the glassware and the papers on it, and a little wax candle. I have the broken bottle on the floor with the goop out of it. I have my bookcase in the back. My cool little bottles and the books on them. The other little candle on the back there. And then my backdrop with the still, with the film strip still on it. Alright. Let me show you one other little thing I got that I may or may not use on the kit here. Let me get that and show you. Alright, so I got this little lantern from Hobby Lobby, and it's just a Dollhouse Lantern. It came with a little battery in it, and it's replaceable, and it lights up. And it was gold originally, and I painted it with the metallic gray and put some wash on the glow part to make it look more dingy. Let me turn that on. We'll switch here on the back. So it's kind of cool. It lights up. It's independent. I don't need to wire it in. It's the right size, the right scale. So I could stick it right here on the table. So it's kind of cool. I might use it. I'm not quite sure, but I saw it there, and it looked like it would work for this kit. So and it wouldn't be any other issues with adding light to it. So okay, but very pleased with how this turned out. So again, this is for the Sci-Fi Annecy Halloween group build. Thanks to Kenny Conklin, who runs the site. Does a fantastic job, and all the great modelers on that site as well, sharing their builds. So highly recommend it. Definitely check it out. And there are some other builds coming up in the future as well. So very pleased with how this turned out. All right, so that was a fun departure from my normal builds of spaceships and doing lighting and things like that. Quite a lot of painting on this kit, which was interesting to be sure and enjoyable for the most part. So I'm going to build one more kit for the Halloween build, and it's going to be the Secret Santa that I got last year. And let me go ahead and show you that kit. All right, it's the War of the Worlds alien creature from Pegasus. It's a fairly straightforward build. It shouldn't take me very long. All you have is the figure, which is made out of vinyl, and then you have a flat plastic base that has some detail on it. So there'll be some painting of the base, like I did with the Invisible Man. But other than that, there's a little prop of a teddy bear and a cup, and that's about it. So I'll be showing this in a future video. And then I will be getting back to my Jupiter 2 once the Halloween build is over, and finishing work on that with the diorama. So my 3D printed Jupiter 2 with the tiny little lights in it. All right, so I will see you next time, and we'll be working on the War of the Worlds. Thank you.